Hello and welcome to the Adventures podcast. I'm your host, Dineo Mashiane, and I'm thrilled to take you on a journey through the dynamic world of communications and advertising. Each episode, I'll explore captivating topics, chat with industry experts, and uncover the secrets behind successful campaigns. The ACA's mission through this podcast is to inform, educate, and entertain you. So whether you're a lifelong learner or just curious, join me for an exciting adventure. Okay, good afternoon and good morning to our listeners, depending on where you'll be viewing or listening from. My name is, of course, Dineo Mashiane, your ACA Adventures podcast host. And I'm so excited to be doing the second episode with a very impressive woman. She has quite a comprehensive bio, so I will just be giving highlights of who she is and what she's done and her roles, right? So she is currently the CEO of AltEd. She is an author, as well as she was recognized as a top business woman of the year in 2014, which is so impressive. I mean, when I read this bio, I said, whoa. I mean, I can't wait until I reach that level as well. So without further ado, her name is Shireen Chengadu, and I'd like to introduce her right now. Shireen, over to you.
Thank you for that very, very generous introduction, Dineo. I always have a big smile on my face when people introduce me and I say, well, you set me up very nicely because now I've got to live into this, right?
No
So
pressure at
thank
all.
no pressure at all. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's thanks for mentioning my role in AltEd, but that's the newest part of my roles and responsibilities. But AltEd is one of the companies within Grow 10, which is the holding company for Richfield AAA School of Advertising, and now our newest baby, which is AltEd, which is our corporate training business. And within the Grow 10 structure, I also have an executive role as the group chief academic officer. So
Yes.
and the reason I'm saying this, because later on, I'm sure as we talk, one of the things that people ask, like, how do you manage all of these things, right? So I
Yes,
wanted to
definitely.
quickly contextualize that. And then just to say, yeah, in 2014, it was an important year because besides the finalist in the Businesswoman of the Year, it was also a year that FinWeek did a lovely story on 10 women to watch. And I remember smiling at that time when they said, well, what's your next? And I remember saying, well, I'm about to enter a new decade and watch me in this decade because it's going to be my best yet. Well, that decade has
Wow.
come and gone. And I've said this about the new decade that I've just entered because it's amazing this kind of energy that you have and that you bring to any table that you bring yourself to if you're passionate about what you're doing. And
Yeah.
so age becomes irrelevant. That's why I was talking in decades, because if I tell you the actual age, then you go, oh my God. So in decades,
No.
because age is irrelevant. It's about your purpose, your passion, and the energy that you bring to everything that you do. And that's pretty much what I'm about. Yeah, and then just very I'll hand back to you for the next part because if you leave me to keep talking, I can do that without having to ask you a single question. No, but you go for it.
I might be gunning for my job here. Okay. So as before we go into the questions, I always like to do an icebreaker with my guests. And lucky for you, you're my second guest. And I'm so excited to play this game with you. And it's really just to get to know you better and for our listeners and viewers to know who you are.
Mm,
So the game is two truths and one lie. I hope you are prepared and you've
mm,
got this. And I will basically be trying to guess what the two truths are that you've given me and what the lie is. So
Okay.
whenever you're ready, you may go
So
ahead.
I'll start with the first one. I am a speed and sports fanatic.
Okay.
The second one is I am a bush person.
Okay.
And the third one is I love traveling.
Hmm. Third one, traveling. So I will go with I love traveling is the truth. The bush one is kind of willy-nilly. I would have to say it might be false. Um, speed. The speed one should also be a truth. I'm hoping. Crossing fingers.
Well done, Dineo. You've got it right.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm a
Wow.
travel. I love traveling. Yeah, if my suitcase is always ready, so you can tell me whenever and which. I mean, I think I can count at the fingertips the few places I haven't been to. I just
Oh
love new
wow.
things, exploring, curious, and not just going on the where every touristy person goes, like off the beaten track stuff. And then I love fast cars and I love sport. I can sit and
Wow.
watch, and I can play sport too, but not very well. So let's leave it there. No, definitely not a bush person. I'm a city girl. I love the sea. I'm a city girl. Bush, I can do a little bit, but not,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
game reserve kind of person, not or camping, no.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I hear you. City girl to city girl. I definitely understand. All
Fantastic.
right. Now, let's get into the questions. So, you have a very comprehensive bio, and we've been through it just briefly. I'm just really curious to know how did that all come together for you?
Mm. Whoa, that's a lovely question. Look, it's a combination of things. I can't tell you it was this one thing. Number one, it has to be how I was raised. That
Mm,
impossible is nothing. I know that's a brand tagline, but that's how I was raised. I was raised by a single mom, and we were told, dream big and make it
yeah.
happen. No
Wow.
mediocrity. Why should I gun for a middle manager job when I can be the boss? You know,
Yes.
why should I settle for mediocrity or being one of a sea of people when I can use my own head, heart, hands to become the person? And so
Yeah.
it was the way I was raised. Then the good fortune of being afforded to study my first degree, because that wasn't everyone's gift either, right?
Yeah.
And,
That's true.
and I'm talking now in the days of apartheid. So my mom made sacrifices so that we could go and have our first degree. And she literally said this: I'm giving you this as your key and entry to the game. And now you
Mm,
can write your story. And then I went on to do three other degrees. I registered for my fifth degree. I
wow.
did my first year, but I took a segue of the PhD of coursework and wrote a book in between, Women Leadership in Emerging Markets. And uh, to be honest, I didn't finish the PhD, but when I'm really old and I'm sitting somewhere in retirement on a beach or some exotic place, I'll finish writing the dissertation. But that's because I like completing things. So,
Yeah.
and then I also want to add, it's a combination of people that I surrounded myself with. And that
Yeah.
is people who became my sponsors, who were my mentors and coaches. My family I mentioned,
Mm,
it takes a village to
yes.
raise a child. And and if your success, yes, it's going to come down to your head, your hard work, your integrity, but there are good people that you can, so who you associate with. And I'm not
Yeah.
talking about using them expediently, but I'm talking about the people who were my mentors and coaches were people who really challenged me, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
because they pushed my buttons, seriously pushed my buttons. But it was those people that I learned the most from, rather than to surround myself with and by people like me, because that's
mm,
comfort zone. And I'm not
yeah,
about just being in a comfort zone. So, how I got to be where I am is hard work, the values and ethics that I was raised with, the belief that I could do this, irrespective of, and money didn't even come into it
yeah,
because it was about doing what you're passionate about, and then also the kind of people that you choose to surround yourself. And those people become your lifelong champions if you want.
yeah,
I
definitely.
sat in a board meeting earlier, and in that board meeting were two white males who I met like almost 30 years ago, who,
Wow.
have been, and now we sit around a boardroom table together. So it's very important that when you're thinking about reaching your full potential,
Yeah,
is to give yourself permission to be stretched because you don't know
yes.
how much there is in you till others around you start to push. And then you go, oh my God, I can do this.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to leave it
Wow.
there because I could add to it, but I'll leave it there.
Wow. No, that's quite impressive, Shireen, and very inspiring, if I may add. Now, you mentioned that you wrote Women in Emerging Markets, correct? And we also know that AltEd actually has a program called Women in Leadership. And I think from my view or from my perspective right now, I want to talk about the collaboration between the ACA, which is the Association for Communication and Advertising, and Women in Leadership, and how did that come about? How did that come together?
Dineo, it's such a beautiful story. So, firstly, the book is called Women Leadership in Emerging Markets.
Yes.
That was that's the year I didn't go on to pursue and finish my PhD because I took
Yeah.
2 years to collaborate with a number of women and across the world, interviewed like
Wow.
48 women from around the world and some men, because it's not about exclusive leadership, it's about inclusive leadership.
Yes.
And for that book was a culmination, if you like, or midway, my very, very deep desire to create inclusive workplaces.
Mm.
And for the longest time ever, women were on the periphery, either because of our paternal mindset and background and the way we were raised, colonial,
Yes.
apartheid. So women were trebly prejudiced in, all through history.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so in fact, when I was doing my MBA in 2008 at a university near the mountain and the sea and the winelands, I won't mention the name, but you should have figured it out now.
Yeah, I've caught on.
My PhD, my dissertation was on women entrepreneurs. So for the
Mm.
longest time ever, my my passion was about unlocking value in people, especially people who are kept out because of systemic constraints. Um,
Yes.
and so I started teaching women in leadership programs at another business school. And I did a lot of work with businesses, both here in South Africa and out of South Africa,
Yeah.
corporates that were asking, how do we bring women onto the journey? Because women, women come in with great energy from university. They have the passion and they bright and they smart and they have the glint of sparkle in the eye.
Yeah.
And then they come into the corporate environment and they get stuck in the belly of organizations. A couple of them will break through, right, to
Yeah.
reach the top. And I said, I want to be part of the solution to unlocking that value. And that's how everything I do. It's about
Yeah.
how does this unlock value rather than being part saying we have a problem, I look for solutions to the problem. And so Women
Definitely.
in Leadership came about me teaching a number of corporates who had, and I must, take my hat off to those corporates that were forward thinking to say,
Mm.
the more diverse our talent pool is at every level, we unlock value for the business, right?
Yes.
Instead of surrounding ourselves by one kind of thinking or one kind of person from a certain background, let's build a more holistic approach to problem solving. So I've
Mm.
been teaching this when it was not yet sexy. Let me put it to you that way. When
Yeah.
people were, at that stage, Women in Leadership, just when it was starting, was like about, oh, teach women how to be, teach them some skills like
Yeah.
how to speak well, how to build their brand. It was more seen more as the warm and fuzzy stuff. And I
Mm.
dared to disrupt that with the way in which I designed and delivered those programs. And 15 years on, it's still running, and hence the relationship with ACA. And how did that
Wow.
come about? One of the employees, your staff at ACA, was a student in one of those programs I taught at that other place.
Wow.
And when she heard that I joined Grow 10, she then reached out to me and said, I'll mention her name, Sharon. Sharon,
Yeah.
who's Sharon Bergman. I know Sharon's got a new surname, but Sharon reached out and said, look, Shireen, I see you here now. Can you run
Mm.
this program for the advertising industry? And, we went through that process. And lo and behold, we've been
Wow.
running it for 4 years now. Yeah. So very, very, and again, it shows the power of what you do and the impact you have and the power of the network. Because
Yes.
Sharon experienced that in a certain way, and that's how this relationship came to be. Look, ACA already had a relationship with AAA School of Advertising, but
Yeah.
not on the Women in Leadership program. And that the rest is history.
That's such a beautiful story. Wow. I would have never imagined. Wow. So when we speak about women in leadership, it spans about it's a program that runs for 10 months, I believe, right?
Yeah, the one with ACA is actually 6 months, but
Okay.
there are certain other bespoke programs that run for 10 months,
Oh
depending on
wow.
what the client wants. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. And in those 6 months, I'm guessing now aiming and targeting the advertising industry, how do you really shape women to become stronger leaders, Because when I think of a program like Women in Leadership, I really think it's all about the like giving leadership skills, and not so much soft skills, etc., etc. So
Mm, mm,
I don't know how
mm.
does Women in Leadership do that?
That's such a great question. So let's look at firstly, women, the assumption is, oh, this question gets asked, why do you still do women in leadership programs? Shouldn't we just do a leadership program? But
Yeah.
with leadership, there's still nuances that happen in the real world of work. Who sits around which decision making table and who gets
Mm,
invited to which event and so on? Who are the influencers and decision makers? So let's be honest, whether it's the advertising and communication industry, whether it is in
yeah.
financial services, tech services, women are still sitting in the belly of organizations.
Yes.
And very few of them are getting to the top positions in C suite or even beyond that to board level. And so there is still a time to teach the leadership skills, whether you're a man or woman, but there's also elements that enhance and bring that such a program brings to the table that says to you, now think about it this way. If you want to stay in the belly of the organization, then keep doing what you're doing. But if
Yeah.
you want to break that and you want to go instead of a pyramid and you want to see it as a box, because there's enough rolls for us at the top. And
Yes.
these are some of the things that you need to pay attention to. And Dineo, I kid you not, and I teach this, like I said, I've been teaching it for 15 plus years. Simple, basic things like the way in which we communicate, the
Yes.
words, the actual words we use. So the verbal and non-verbal, our ability to have eye contact, when you're sitting around a table and when there's difficult decisions being talked about, difficult topics, how you hold your own. But that takes confidence, and that confidence comes not, it sits here already in you. All it needs is
Yeah.
what I call a little bit of spit and polish to say
Yeah.
it's there. You just need to hone it. And the more you start doing it, you just come into your own. So the
Wow.
art of negotiation, for example, you just started your career. Did you
Yes.
negotiate your salary? Do you know how to negotiate your salary? Do you know how to
No.
negotiate the best deal for yourself? And by the way, negotiation is not a win-lose.
Yeah.
Negotiation is a win-win. So there's a strategy that gets taught. Uh, so how women negotiate versus how men negotiate. This is
Yeah.
beautiful. We all negotiate for our companies and what we do in the workplace. But how do you negotiate? How do you hold that mirror to self and say, I'm negotiating now for me? And locked with that is women were often seen as, be grateful that you got this opportunity. Be
Yeah.
grateful you
That's
got this
true.
job. Don't be overly ambitious. Don't ask for more because, good
Yeah.
girls don't do that.
Yeah.
So it unlocks a lot of what you already know, but it gives you a methodology and a language and the techniques to
Mm.
draw on so that you start to get these things start to emerge and you start to flourish.
Sure.
I always start with the danger of a single story because people assume we're one homogenous group. Women, we're one homogenous group
Yeah.
because
That's
we're
true.
women.
Yeah.
But on the basis of race, age, look at you, look at me, on the basis of your lived experience, on the basis of religion, your sexual identity, and, we're not one homogenous group. Therefore, there isn't a one size fits all for
Yes.
every one of us because we're women. So again, the layers that happens and it starts to start with your story. Own your story. Be
Yes.
proud of where you've come from. And
Sure.
the more you start to be brave about your story, your identity is polished and honed, and you start to talk from a place of pride. I
Wow.
always tell the story. My mum was a factory worker, Dineo.
Yeah.
My mom was a factory worker. My dad died. She had never worked before then. She'd worked and put us all through our studies. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
proud of that. And I'm proud of that basis of that storytelling because it
Yes.
says, I did not forget where I've come from. The other important thing in this Women in Leadership is holistic wellness,
Yeah.
especially now there's more fractures and fragilities. If you think about what's happening around the world, what's happening in our country, what's happening in corporates, there's so many fractures and fragilities. And this is one vessel, right?
Yeah.
If you're not looking after yourself holistically, yes, you're attending courses like Women in Leadership, you studying for an MBA, you're coming to to do courses with Alt Ed, you're doing
Mm.
courses with Richfield or Triple A. But that's the knowledge. Are you looking after yourself, your mind, your body, your finances? Are
Yeah.
you looking after your digital prowess?
Mm.
Or you're going to be left behind? So in this program, we unlock all of those things. And
Sure.
it's done in such a beautiful way. It's a seamless integration. There's like this golden thread. You
Yeah.
start, and then you start to see this, you know, the puzzle pieces come together beautifully. And so when you leave this program, you leave a better version of yourself,
Yeah.
not a new version of you, because I'm not a plastic surgeon. uh, you know, you leave the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Does that make
Wow.
sense?
No, it really does. So it's really about taking ownership of your identity. It's not just taking ownership of who you are in a business perspective, but as within your life, looking at your life holistically and as an
Yeah.
overall approach, which is pretty
And
great.
Danae, that's important because we wear multiple hats. You know,
Yeah.
we may be mothers, we may be sisters, we may be colleagues in the workplace, we
Yes.
friends, we may have a partner. So we carry multiple roles all the time. And it's
Yeah.
important to recognize that. And sometimes we don't give that holistic wellness time
Mm.
to actually dwell, you know, to land. The other thing in this program that I'm very proud of, Dineo, is women in the tech space.
Wow.
So we do a session on on tech she can, and this is wonderful. I have an expert guest lecturer who does the session because if you're not digitally and aware of all the tech disruptions, like
Yeah.
simple thing like coding, programming language, and so on,
Yes.
youngsters coming after you are going to have you for lunch.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're very deliberate about in this program moving you from, if you're in a place of invisibility
Mm.
or partial visibility, to full visibility.
Sure. Wow, that is some great work that is contained within that curriculum. I mean, that's so
Very proud of
impressive.
it. Mm,
Wow. No, I would also just like to ask, when we're speaking about those different parts of women in leadership, I mean, I'm thinking and I'm sitting and I'm thinking to myself, who's actually eligible to join the Women in Leadership
mm.
program? And, how can our listeners be part of it?
Cool. So if it's I'll start with the ACA program,
Yeah.
right? Because that's a bespoke program paid for, sponsored by ACA. So
Yes.
anyone who's interested, let's say from this sector and this industry, who's keen, must reach out to ACA, because
Mm.
there's bursary, you know, you don't, I mean, how beautiful. ACA looks for the funding to sponsor women in this industry. I mean, that's
Yeah.
beautiful, right? So there's that one. So you can reach out. I know it, like we just started last month, and but
Yeah.
the process starts like February of every year.
Mm-hmm.
So just connecting with ACA to say, when is the next intake starting? How can I apply? And so on, right? So, and that's an important thing, Dineo, is that if you're serious about reaching your full potential, you
Yeah.
must make the effort. You know, it's not just going to fall in your lap or on your plate. Make the effort, reach
That's
out
right.
and ask, right? So then there's other corporate programs that we run, bespoke programs that we design. It could be for financial services, it could be for retail or whatever. And those are the bespoke programs, are ones that are run for corporates, because then we bespoke it for that particular industry. Then there's open programs that you can, you
Ooh.
know, check us out on the Alt Ed website, www dot alt dash ed dot AI. So Alt
Yeah.
Ed website, because there's open program that you can sign up for. And then you'll be in a group with multiple women from different industries, which is also a
Wow.
wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Now there's programs offered online and there's programs offered face to face. So depending on which program you want. Then the other element to this is there's programs that are anchored in maybe hybrid because
Mm,
some people want face to face and that. And
yeah.
underpin all of these programs, depending on which program you want to choose. By the way, I teach as an MBA elective in our MBA program. Depending on which program you choose, and if you did the assessments, you could earn a credit into an elective in the MBA program, right? So,
Sure.
so there's lovely articulation possibilities as well. You know what I'm very proud of in our program also in moving from invisibility to visibility is that there's mentorship, coaching, and sponsorship. All of these three things together happens
Yeah.
and underpins all the programs that we run. So it's not just about executive coaching, but it's about the mentorship and it's the coaching and it's the because that's what gets you notice. You
Yeah.
know, sponsors are the ones who are the people in powerful positions who say, "Wow, I love Dineo. Look at what she's doing. These podcasts. Oh my God,
Yeah.
Dineo is so fabulous. I want to invite her to this." But you're not going to do that if you
Mm.
haven't learned how to bring your best self forward.
Wow. And women in leadership and the programs that you run just basically unlock that. I love that phrase of going from invisibility to visibility.
Yeah,
So amazing.
yeah.
And
And,
I'd
and,
like,
and by the way, I just want to give
yeah,
credit to that. This was from a student I taught on the MBA program, the Women in Leadership. And her dissertation, by the way, was
yeah.
moving from invisibility to visibility. And now
Wow.
she is the CFO of a big, big corporate.
Wow. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I would have never thought about that. Wow. I'm
Uh,
going to keep that in my mind, locked in throughout my mind, throughout my entire career. I'm going to take it with me
fantastic.
everywhere. And
Fantastic.
yeah, I'd just like to ask, so from your experience, I
Mm,
mean, it's a beautiful story that you've just told that the lady that you were teaching in the MBA elective, moved on to becoming a CFO of a big corporate company. How powerful is then collaboration among women in
mm,
leadership and
mm.
and the impact? What kind of impact have you seen when women work together?
And I want to say before I answer the part about women work together,
Yeah.
collaboration is key. Number one,
Mm.
you know, you can only go so far if you go alone. But if
Yes.
you're working with people who bring different things to a project, an activity, a business, you can go
Yeah.
so much further.
Yes.
And mm, all through my career, I've collaborated. You know, the Women in Leadership book was initially a thought I had. And then I said, but hold on, I work with this fantastic woman. And I'm going to invite her to co-author and co-edit this book with me. And the next thing we were like, oh my God, we know all these other powerful women. Let's get their
Yeah.
stories. Let them be co chapter authors and so on. And you know, it
Wow.
ended up being a master class in collaboration for a common purpose to bring us to a beautiful outcome.
Sure.
And that story about, yeah, you know, there's the story, women, we don't work well together, we pull against each other. Look, some of that is true. But if we can just have this big mindset, and I want to talk about mindset because your question locks into mindset.
Yeah.
If you have a growth mindset and an abundant mindset, you're never going to say, I don't want to work with other women because then they will get noticed. Like me
Yeah.
telling you the story of this young CFO, and she's young and she's beautiful and she's smart, doesn't take away anything from me. I'm telling you the story of another woman's success. And the
Yes.
more we can start to actually talk about this. In fact, you're going, those people doing the program through ACA is going to meet her in fact, tomorrow's module that
Oh,
I'm
wow.
teaching. So I invite them to be guest speakers on these programs because you can learn firsthand. So again, it means we collaborate. We don't pull each other down. We don't work against each other. And if you have that mindset, then that's a scarcity mindset. And people with scarcity mindsets don't
Yeah.
thrive. Open the doors. Other
Yes.
people
There's
have
plenty
different
of room.
strengths. Absolutely. And we each have different strengths. So
Yeah.
let that person shine where that strength is. And the next thing you know, there's another door that opens for you. Because my mom, again, always taught us if you give abundantly, your hands are open to receive.
Yes. Wow. Wow. Oh, wow. That's incredible, Shireen. And also just like to ask, why do you think programs, I mean, you are speaking about having an abundant mindset, right? And why do you think programs like Women in Leadership are so beneficial for women at different stages of their leadership journeys, or
Yeah.
just even their
Ye-
journey in general?
Yeah. Look, we face different challenges. There are some challenges that are universal, right?
Yeah.
But there are different challenges at different phases of one's career. So, like when you asked me earlier, which program and how can women? So, we've got a program for entry to middle managers. Then we have a
Yeah.
program for senior women, executive roles into director level, board level roles. So,
Sure.
it depends where you are in your career. And these will, elements of it will be taught universally, but then
Mm.
we start to hone in on certain things. For example, sitting at a boardroom table, and if there's only two of you around that boardroom table, or if there's only two of you around the exco table and there's 8 men, how do you ensure that you bring your best self? How is your idea adopted,
Mm.
received firstly, and adopted? How do you advocate for support? So it depends on what level of your career. And truthfully, we never stop learning. We will only stop learning when we die. Because things are moving seismically and there's something to be learned at every stage of your career. I have
Yeah.
this other young woman I taught on the MBA program, and she also does a lot of board work for me on the programs that deal with women on boards. She talks about every time you enter a new phase and a new role, you're a novice, you're a white
Sure.
belt, in terms
Yeah.
of karate. And it doesn't matter what other, achievements you have, but every time you
It's a
move
blank
into a new,
canvas almost.
yes, and you go, how can I learn, teach
Mm.
me more. And then you move through that. So I would say to women, it's not a given that you move from, let's say, from a functional technical role into your first management role, from your first into a middle management, senior management, executive board. It's not the same. It's not one and the same thing. You may have profit and loss responsibility if you're running a business. Now, if you
Mm.
don't understand financials, somebody's going to pull the wool over your eyes, right? So,
Yeah.
how do you do that? If you're a tech laggard and your business is competing with tech savvy businesses in a competitive landscape, how are you making sure that you're learning the tech that makes businesses go? So, all
Sure.
through your career, you will have different leadership skills that you need to acquire, and you
Yeah.
keep working on them to attain them. And underpinning all of it again, Dineo, is what I said. You need mentors and coaches. It's not a once-off thing. And
Yeah.
even to this day, I still have mentors and coaches that I
Wow.
go back and I ask and I say, well, look, I'm sitting with this. What should I do?
Sure. Oh, that's incredible. I love that. I love that. I mean, learning should never stop, and at it's quite impressive and very what do you call this? It's quite impressive really to say that you still have a mentor even at
Yeah,
your senior level.
yeah.
I always used to just think, okay, you get a mentor for when you're a junior, and then after that you just become like the expert, you know?
No, no. Unfortunately, I don't think we become experts
Yeah,
at anything because, like I was saying, you get to that, then there's something new happening, and you have to learn more.
yeah,
So
definitely.
you achieve some level of expertise, but then there's new stuff. And that's why continuous learning, and that's why we launched Alt Ed, because
Wow.
you need to keep learning in order to reach your full potential.
Yeah, no, definitely. And wow, thank you so much just for taking us through that. I think my one of my very last questions would be, seeing that you've had such an extensive career, really, can you share maybe a personal story or a lesson that might inspire emerging talent,
Mm,
women, men,
mm. Yeah.
already about navigating senior roles? Yeah,
Yeah, there's two or three very quick ones, and I'll share. Number one, people are always going to try and box you on the basis of race, gender, class, experience,
mm,
sexual identity, right? But going back to what I said, if you're confident in yourself, in the
yeah,
whole dare to disrupt yourself, dare to lead. That's what I did.
wow,
And the more people told me I couldn't do it, guess what? That's why I am where I am, right? So that's the
yeah,
first thing. So that you've got to be, and it doesn't come easy, Dineo, because you're going to pay. I mean, I always say I've got the scars to show for it, but they didn't
yeah.
kill me. They didn't kill me. They made me
They
stronger.
only make you stronger. Yeah.
Exactly. Then the second thing, Danea, is something I've alluded to. Take other people on the journey, both your family, your friends, and your colleagues, because they can
Mm,
learn from you. They don't have to have the same mistakes that you made. They
yeah.
can have one step above that and set themselves up for success. So
Yeah, definitely.
always take other people on the journey with you. And the other lesson that I've learned is, um, you know, the question about ethics and integrity. Don't, don't go down that slippery slope of saying
Sure.
yes to something that is going to destroy your reputation. It can be,
Yeah.
somebody will wiggle something in front of you. It may be money, it may be a position, it may be whatever. The answer should be a steadfast no. Say no
Mm,
to anything that will risk your reputation being sullied, because
sure.
that's the hard thing to do. And there will be times in all through your career that somebody
Yeah.
says do this, do that, but it doesn't sit well with your values and your true north. Say
Mm,
no. And it may cost you some money, it may cost you a position, but at least you kept to your true self. And
yes.
you know what? If you back yourself, you'll reach it. I'm a living testament to it. But, and finally, just keep learning. I mean, I read voraciously, I watch news channels, I do a lot of Netflix too, in case you think I'm only serious. No, I watch all the mindless stuff as well. And, but I have a curiosity. And the
Yeah.
day I stop being curious is the day I die. I want
Wow.
to be interesting and interested.
Wow.
I want people who, in my presence, to feel like, wow, she's a light switch. She's
Yes.
switched on something, as opposed to coming in and be the person who switches, keeps the light off.
Mm,
Yeah, I love it. I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. When I get up in the morning, it's because the fire in my belly is still there. And I've left
yeah.
jobs, Deneo, when the fire in the belly wasn't there anymore. I may
Yeah.
have been in a really cool, comfy, cushy job, but the fire was gone. And I
Yeah.
left those jobs. People thought I was mad to do that. And I said, no, but I'm not enjoying it anymore. It's
Yeah.
not adding anything for them or for me anymore. And that's when, time to take the off ramp.
Sure. Wow, Shireen. I could sit here and really ask you questions all day and learn more and just sponge off of it and just kind of figure out so many things about life because there's so many questions that I have, especially emerging into
Thank
the
you.
new, you know, into my new job and into this new industry. So I had such a pleasure really going through this interview with you. And before we wrap up, I also want to know, for those who are listening
Mm.
and want to learn more and connect more with you, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, look, you can go onto the Alt Ed website. You can go onto you know, you'll find me there. But Dineo, it's very easy. I love young people saying to me, "Can you mentor? Can I spend an hour with you? Can I have a cup of coffee with you?" Because
Yeah,
who am I to say no? That may be the thing that unlocks something. So absolutely alt dot www dot alt dash ed alt is an
yeah.
alt dash ed dot ai. Welcome to reach me that way, or I'll just give you my email address as well on top of it, which you can, it's Shireen.Chengadu at growth10, GROWHTH
Yeah,
dash TEN.com.
lovely.
And
And are you also
so
on LinkedIn?
yeah, LinkedIn for sure.
LinkedIn as
I do
well. Yeah,
LinkedIn. I don't do all the other social media, but yeah, LinkedIn for sure.
definitely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Shireen, for dropping by and stopping by to chat. This was a very insightful conversation, and I loved it. I have a feeling that we're going to have more episodes featuring you.
Thank you.
So
That's
I
very
hope you'll be
kind.
open-minded to come through once more. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Dineo, I enjoyed my time with you, and I have to also give you acknowledgement. You did a great job. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Adventures podcast. I hope you enjoyed our journey through the world of communications and advertising. If you found this episode informative and entertaining, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more listeners just like you. Don't forget to follow us on social media at ACA South Africa and visit our website www.acasa.co.za for updates and behind-the-scenes content. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the fascinating world of communications and advertising.